The massive trading station Nexus 9 hummed with activity, its metallic corridors bustling with creatures from 100 different star systems. June Park moved carefully through the crowded marketplace, his worn leather jacket brushing against alien merchants and travelers. He was a cargo trader, typical in appearance but with an uncommon sense of awareness that came from years of navigating complex interstellar environments. At first, he didn't notice the commotion. The station's background noise was a constant mix of alien languages, mechanical sounds, and the low hum of environmental systems. But something caught his attention. A subtle shift in the ambient noise. A tension that didn't belong in the normal chaos of the marketplace. Near a cluster of holographic display stands, 3 large reptilian creatures surrounded a much smaller figure. June's eyes focused, cutting through the crowd. The smaller being was an alien girl, her blue-tinted skin almost translucent under the harsh station lighting. She was trembling, her delicate wing-like appendages folded tight against her body in a protective gesture. The reptilian mercenaries were massive, each standing nearly 2 feet taller than the girl. Their scaled skin gleamed with an oily sheen, and their voices were harsh and guttural. They were deliberately blocking her path, pushing her back and forth between them like a living toy. "Look at her," one mercenary growled in the universal trade language. Another lost refugee. No ship, no protection. The girl said nothing. Her large, dark eyes were fixed on the ground, avoiding direct eye contact. Her hands were clenched into small fists, the only sign of her inner resistance. June had seen this before. The station was a crossroads for thousands of species, but it was also a place where the weak were often targeted. He had witnessed countless moments of casual cruelty, but something about this scene made him pause. Maybe it was the way the girl's wings quivered. Maybe it was the absolute vulnerability in her posture. Whatever the reason, June found himself walking toward the group. The marketplace continued its bustling rhythm around them. Merchants called out sales pitches, holographic advertisements, flickered. Automated cleaning drones moved silently across the floor. Nobody else seemed to notice the developing confrontation. As June approached, the mercenaries were becoming more aggressive. One of them shoved the girl, causing her to stumble backward. A small cry escaped her throat, not of pain, but of frustrated helplessness. "Hey," June called out. His voice was calm but carried a clear, unmistakable authority. The mercenaries turned. Their eyes, reptilian and cold, assessed him quickly. To them, he was just another human trader, potentially easy prey or an inconsequential interruption. "This doesn't concern you," the largest mercenary said, turning back to the girl. June took another step forward. His hands were open, a universal gesture of peaceful intention. But there was something in his stance, a quiet determination, that suggested he wouldn't be easily dismissed. "I think it does concern me," he responded. The marketplace sound seemed to fade. The holographic advertisements continued their endless cycle, but the area around June, the mercenaries, and the alien girl became a small bubble of tension. The girl raised her head slightly. For the first time, she looked directly at June. Her eyes were a deep liquid black, not just dark but filled with an intelligence and depth that suggested something far more complex than her current vulnerable position. In that moment, something unexpected happened. A connection formed, not just between June and the girl, but between 2 beings who understood what it meant to be alone in a vast, often indifferent universe. The tension hung in the air like a physical weight. June stood facing the mercenaries, his body language calm but alert. The marketplace around them continued its normal rhythm, traders and travelers moving past without a second glance. The largest mercenary, a massive scaled creature with dark green skin and sharp ridges along his spine, took a step toward June. His breath smelled of burned metal and stale protein supplements. "Walk away," he growled, revealing rows of pointed teeth. June didn't move. "What's your problem with her?" he asked, his voice steady. The alien girl watched silently, her blue-tinted skin slightly shimmering under the station's artificial lights. Her wing-like appendages remained tightly folded, a clear sign of her fear and uncertainty. "This is not human business," Another mercenary spat. His translator device created a mechanical undertone to his words, making them sound even more threatening. June knew the risks. Interfering in alien conflicts could mean losing his trading license, getting banned from the station, or worse. But something about the girl's situation felt wrong. He had spent years traveling between star systems, and he understood the unwritten rules of survival for displaced beings. "She looks like she needs help," June responded, taking a small step forward. The mercenaries exchanged quick glances. Their body language suggested they hadn't expected resistance, especially from a human. Most traders would simply walk away, to avoid trouble. The alien girl took a tiny step backward, her movements careful and precise. Her eyes darted between June and the mercenaries, calculating her potential escape routes. "I am Hana," she suddenly spoke, her voice soft but clear. The translation device on her collar converted her native language into perfect universal speech. "I mean no trouble." Her words seemed to surprise even the mercenaries. They had been treating her like an object, not a sentient being capable of speaking for herself. June glanced at her briefly. "Are you okay?" he asked. Hana's response was unexpected. Instead of showing fear, she straightened her posture. "I am a researcher," she said. "My research vessel was destroyed 3 standard months ago. I am trying to reach the scientific conference on the next station." The mercenaries laughed. It was a harsh mechanical sound that echoed through the marketplace. "A refugee," one of them said. "No credits, no protection, no rights." June understood the underlying dynamics. In this part of the galaxy, displaced individuals were often seen as potential problems. Without a recognized home planet or corporate sponsorship, beings like Hana were vulnerable to harassment and exploitation. "She has a right to travel," June said, his voice gaining an edge of determination. The lead mercenary moved closer. He was easily twice June's size, with muscles that suggested years of combat training. "Humans," he sneered, "always thinking they can change things." But June didn't back down. He knew that sometimes a simple act of standing ground could change everything. The marketplace around them continued its busy rhythm, holographic advertisements flickering, traders calling out. But a small bubble of tension had formed around them. Hana watched, her large dark eyes moving between June and the mercenaries. She hadn't asked for this protection, but something in June's stance suggested he wasn't going to walk away. The moment stretched. Seconds felt like hours. The mercenaries were calculating their next move. June remained steady, his hands open, but ready. Hana remained silent, her wing-like appendages slightly trembling. Everything could change in the next few moments. A simple intervention in a busy marketplace could become something much larger. A statement about compassion, about standing against casual cruelty, about recognizing the humanity, or in this case, the sentience in others. The marketplace continued. The station's systems hummed. And 3 beings, a human trader, an alien researcher, and aggressive mercenaries, stood at the edge of a potential conflict that could reshape their understanding of each other. The station's administrative center was a maze of cold metal, corridors, and endless data screens. June walked beside Hana, navigating the complex bureaucratic system that seemed designed to discourage anyone seeking help. Official documents flickered in multiple languages, creating a confusing wall of information. "Refugee processing takes months," a bored administrative worker told them. Her tentacle-like fingers moved across digital screens without looking up. "Your case requires multiple verifications." Hana's wings drooped slightly. June could see the ice or defeat forming in her eyes. The system was working exactly as it was designed, to make getting help almost impossible. He knew the game. Every document required another document. Every verification needed another verification. The bureaucracy was a living creature that consumed hope and energy. Refugees like Hana were just numbers in a massive, uncaring machine. "I have research credentials," Hana said softly, producing a small holographic data chip. Her fingers trembled slightly as she handed it over. The administrative worker barely glanced at it. "Incomplete," she muttered. Requires additional certification from your original research institution. June understood the problem immediately. Hana's research vessel had been destroyed. Her original institution no longer existed. This was a deliberate trap, a system that required proof from something that no longer existed. Who benefits from this? June asked himself quietly. The answer was clear. The station's administrative system was designed to filter out vulnerable individuals. Refugees, researchers without corporate backing, independent travelers. They were all potential problems. The easier path was to discourage them, to make the process so complicated that they would simply give up. Hana pulled out additional documents. Each one seemed to create more questions than answers. Her research work was complex, studying atmospheric changes in distant star systems. But without a recognized institutional backing, her credentials meant nothing here. June watched the process. He had seen this before, not just in space stations, but in bureaucratic systems across different cultures. The powerful always created systems that protected their own interest while making survival difficult for others. We need a different approach, he said to Hana. Their next stop was the station's Legal Assistance Center. A holographic representation of a legal advisor flickered to life, a neutral-faced entity that seemed more machine than helpful. Your case requires multiple cross-references, the hologram stated. Estimated processing time, 247 standard days. Hana's wings drooped completely now. 247 days meant she would miss her critical research conference. Her work, potentially groundbreaking research about atmospheric conditions in unexplored star systems, would be delayed or lost. June recognized the pattern. This wasn't just bureaucracy. This was a system designed to eliminate potential threats, to keep outsiders from gaining any meaningful access. He began collecting evidence, digital records, communication logs, verification documents. Each piece was a small battle in a larger war against a system designed to crush individual hope. The station hummed around them. Traders moved past. Alien species from 100 different worlds continued their business. But for Hana, the entire universe had been reduced to these cold, metal corridors and endless digital forms. June noticed something else. The administrative workers seemed almost mechanical in their responses. They weren't being deliberately cruel. They were simply following a system so complex that individual compassion had been completely removed. We'll find a way, he told Hana. His voice was quiet but determined. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. Not as a rescuer, not as a stranger, but as someone who understood that sometimes surviving meant fighting systems larger than yourself. The station's lights flickered. Another day was ending, and their battle was just beginning. The mercenaries found June 3 standard cycles later. They cornered him near the cargo loading docks, where massive shipping containers created a maze of metal and shadows. You interfered, the lead mercenary said. His translator device made his voice sound mechanical and cold. June kept his hands visible. He knew the rules of station conflict. One wrong move could mean immediate detention or worse. The loading. Dock workers continued their work, deliberately avoiding eye contact. I protected someone who needed help, June responded calmly. The mercenaries had planned this carefully. 2 blocked the exit. 1 moved slowly to his side. Their body language suggested trained military movement. Precise, calculated, dangerous. Your trading license is now under review, the largest mercenary said. His scaled hand touched a digital interface on his arm. 1 complaint, 1 report, and you lose everything. Hana watched from a hidden observation platform. Her research skills had taught her how to track and observe without being detected. She understood the complex dynamics playing out below. June knew the threat was real. A trading license was more than just a document. It was a lifeline for independent operators like himself. Losing it meant bankruptcy, station expulsion, potential blacklisting across multiple star systems. Why her? June asked. The mercenaries exchanged strange looks. Something deeper was happening here. This wasn't just about a random alien girl. This was about something more complicated. She carries information, one mercenary suddenly said. Then he stopped, realizing he had revealed too much. Hana's wings slightly expanded. She recognized the slip. Information. Not just her research, but something more significant. The station's environmental systems hummed. Artificial gravity maintained perfect balance. Holographic advertisements continued their endless cycle. But in this small area, a critical moment was unfolding. June took a calculated risk. What information? The mercenaries weren't prepared for direct questioning. Their entire strategy relied on intimidation, on making their target feel powerless. Direct confrontation was unexpected. Her research, the lead mercenary said, contains something valuable. Something some governments would pay significant credits to suppress. Hana's research wasn't just about atmospheric conditions. It was about something more, something that could potentially change understanding of entire star systems. The confrontation escalated. The mercenaries moved closer. June remained calm, but his body was coiled like a spring. Years of trading in dangerous systems had taught him how to read potential violence. Station security cameras recorded everything. But in this part of the station, recordings could easily disappear. Credits could make evidence vanish. "We can make this easy," one mercenary said. "Walk away. Forget the girl." June understood the offer. It was standard negotiation in these parts. Survival often meant compromise. Looking the other way, protecting your own interests. But something in him had changed since meeting Hana. This wasn't just about a random act of protection anymore. This was about something larger. "No," June said. Simply, the word hung in the air. Simple, definitive. A complete rejection of their terms. The mercenaries hadn't expected that. Their entire strategy depended on fear, on the typical human response of self-preservation. A direct refusal was not in their calculations. Hana watched, her research mind analyzing every movement, every subtle shift in body language. She was collecting data, understanding the complex human dynamics of conflict and resistance. The loading dock continued its rhythmic work. Cargo containers moved. Workers continued their tasks. But in this small space, a critical moment was unfolding. June had made his choice. Whatever came next, he would face it. Not as a victim, not as a traitor trying to survive, but as someone who had decided that some things were worth fighting for. The mercenaries prepared to make their move. The station's systems continued their perfect mechanical rhythm, and everything was about to change. The diplomatic hearing room was unlike any official space June had seen before. Holographic panels displayed multiple translation streams. Representatives from different star systems sat in circular formation, their appearances ranging from crystalline beings to energy-based life forms. Hana stood beside June, her wings now fully extended, a sign of confidence her earlier self would never have shown. Her research data played on multiple screens, revealing something extraordinary. Evidence of hidden communication networks between unexplored star systems. "The information I discovered," Hana explained, her voice steady, "shows potential pathways of communication that could transform interstellar understanding." The mercenaries looked smaller now. Without their station power, they were just bullies stripped of their usual intimidation tactics. Their leader sat hunched, knowing his attempts to suppress Hana's research had failed. Station security had investigated the mercenaries' background. They weren't just random traders. They were working for a corporate entity that wanted to keep certain scientific discoveries hidden. Hana's research threatened their economic model. June's documentation became crucial. Every communication log, every recorded interaction, every piece of evidence he had carefully collected became a weapon against the mercenaries' claims. One human defender, a crystalline representative said, protected a researcher whose work could change multiple star systems' understanding. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. A random act of kindness had exposed a complex network of scientific suppression. Hana's research wasn't just about atmospheric conditions. It revealed potential communication channels between star systems that some powerful entities wanted to keep secret. Your trading license is not just restored, the hearing panel announced to June. You're being granted special diplomatic recognition. Hana looked at June. Their relationship had transformed from a random marketplace encounter to something more significant. She was no longer just a vulnerable refugee. She was a recognized researcher with critical scientific importance. The mercenaries were stripped of their station credentials, their corporate backing investigated. What had started as a simple act of bullying had exposed a much larger systemic problem. Station administrators who had initially ignored Hana's case now scrambled to support her. Scientific institutions requested her research. Her refugee status was immediately upgraded to critical scientific resource. June realized something fundamental had changed, not just for Hana, not just for himself, but for the entire station's understanding of protection and support. "Why did you help me?" Hana asked June during a quiet moment after the hearing. June smiled. "Sometimes," he said, "doing the right thing is its own reason." The station continued its endless cycle of trade and movement. Holographic advertisements flickered. Alien species from 100 worlds continued their complex interactions. But something had shifted. One human's decision to help a vulnerable alien had exposed a network of suppression. One act of compassion had created ripples that would transform multiple star systems' understanding. Hana was offered multiple research positions. Her work would now be funded, protected, celebrated. The very system that had tried to suppress her was now elevating her. June's trading license was not just restored, but enhanced. He was now recognized as a special diplomatic courier, with expanded rights and protections across multiple star systems. The marketplace where they had first met continued its busy rhythm. Traders called out. Alien species moved between stalls, but the space held a different energy now. A reminder that compassion could be a powerful form of resistance. As they prepared to leave the hearing room, Hana touched June's arm, a gesture of gratitude that transcended species, culture, and traditional understanding. The station's systems hummed. Another cycle completed. But something fundamental had changed. Not through violence, not through complex political negotiations, but through a simple, unexpected act of human kindness.